You thought the game industry was big. Wait till you see what happens after Web 3.
Tell me about your latest game, Shrapnel. Why is it different than anything we've seen in Web 3 gaming so far?
You play one of these operators. This is like 2038. An asteroid hits the moon and fractures it. Within the moon rock that's falling as meteors, there's chunks of this asteroid. And it is a extremely rare and valuable mineral. There's other players in the game, and this being an extraction game, I win by getting out alive with the most loot. And throw on top of that all these NFTs, all the gear that I take away from you with real world value in the assets, and you're gonna have something completely unique.
And that maybe has been the missing component in games. And that changes the way I engage with the game, changes the way I feel about it, changes even the decisions I make as a game player.
For the first time, you're kind of really collectively working together with the community. It's going to just pour gasoline on the bonfire that is the game industry already.
What's your advice to people out there that want to create a game? What would you tell them?
Stop trying to figure out how to break into Hollywood. Just do it. Go do it. Make it. And then Hollywood will find you because you made something cool. Do your dream. You're the director of this movie you call your life. What are you going to do with your one precious life? Are you going to sit there and talk about something you're never going to do? Or are you going to be like Michael Mann and just do it?
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go? This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Mark Long, the entrepreneur, gaming industry veteran, producer, and author. You are the co-founder and CEO of Neon Machine, a production company that aims to bring the best in game development to the world of film and television. Over the past 27 years, you produced 32 games on virtually every major media platform, from Sega Genesis to Sony PlayStation to Oculus Rift, and served as the head of interactive at both HBO and Microsoft's xCloud. You served as a major in the U.S. Army, are a member of the Hollywood Producers Guild, and wrote the New York Times bestseller, The Silence of Our Friends. Your latest project, Shrapnel, is the world's first blockchain-enabled first-person shooter game. It's built on Avalanche and combines the best of Web 2 gaming with the rewards and ownership provided by Web 3. You believe that Shrapnel will define a new era of gaming and help bring massive adoption of the blockchain. Mark, welcome to London Real.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
It's great having you here. I just want to start by saying that Neon Machine is one of our portfolio companies here at London Real Ventures. It's the world's first media-powered investment firm where our mission is to transform the world by investing in cutting-edge Web3 and AI companies while giving our partners like you marketing exposure across the London Real media platforms and academies. We heighten awareness, create customers, and build communities by leveraging our global audience and extensive network. Mark, we are beyond excited to be part of this journey with you. So let's jump in.
You're a smart investor.
We are. Tell me about your latest game, Shrapnel, and let's just jump into it. Why is it different than anything we've seen in Web3 gaming so far?
You know, Shrapnel is something that I've wanted to do forever. Like the idea of making a game your own is something, even as a developer, I really enjoyed. Like in the early aughts, I would come home from the studio making my own game, and I would go home and I would mod games of the era, right? Like Half-Life 2 and America's Army and GTA. And I was just thrilled if like 11 people would play my map, right? Even though I'm making games for millions of people. back in the studio. There's something inherently joyful about making a game you love your own and getting to create it your own. On top of that, I watch my own boys start by playing Minecraft, where they could build their own worlds, make their own content, then age into Roblox, which is kind of like the Legos of game creation. And then as you become more competitive as a tween, you age into Fortnite. And now Fortnite, over 50% of the engagement or the content in Fortnite's made by other players, not made by Epic anymore. But when you get 18 to 35, the core demographic, there's nothing for you to age into. And I've always thought in these two generation of gamers, with all these kids wanting to be, if you ask them, they'll say, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be a game developer, right? Why is nobody making a platform to make a professional level of game? And I think players are finally ready for that. Web3 embraces that concept further because Web3 is about ownership, transparency, frictionless internet money. And the other thing I observed was that, with the advent of free-to-play in the last decade, we've gone from getting in a car, driving to the store, buying a disc, putting it in a machine, and then when I'm done with it, taking it to GameStop and trading it in for other games. Now, everything is digitally downloaded, and most monetization is in-app purchase. You're buying skins, cosmetics, upgrades, XP, that kind of thing. But you never really own any of that stuff you buy. You don't get to have the GameStop experience. And Web3 blockchain specifically provides for that. It's free database technology that has all these powerful attributes. And so embracing that allows us to provide novel game experiences to players that are well beyond the first wave of egregious free-to-play play-to-earn games. That's not really a thing, right? It was just a Ponzi scheme, really. And so when we put all these things together and I work with my team, I said, this is the next generation of gaming. And just like free-to-play, where developers and players were initially very dismissive of it, I see the same thing in Web3 gaming. In Web2, it was like, oh, those are just crappy knockoffs of a better game that I can play. They were Korean titles that weren't even translated. They were free, and that was the attraction. But within 10 years, the entire industry had shifted over completely. And I think the same thing is going to happen with Web3.
But the big problem is that the games haven't been good enough. It's just been that simple. I was in Dubai a year ago at GITEX, the biggest technology conference in the world, and I was on stage moderating a panel on Web3 gaming, and there was one kind of Web2 guy, and he just called everybody out on the stage and says, nobody wants to basically do DeFi trades on your tokens. Nobody wants this nonsense. They want to play a game. Mm-hmm. And everybody was left speechless because they couldn't give an example of a AAA game or something that was fun to play.
That's because these games originally came out of Web3 developers. They're not game developers. Do you know how hard it is to make a video game, let alone a successful video game? So no one had tried it yet. These are all DeFi guys or people just trying to make money by doing a ripoff of CryptoKitties or whatever it is. So yes, we were one of the first, and my team saw it as a blue ocean of opportunity. Once they saw the barrier to entry, which is primarily regulatory, right? Microsoft, they can't own crypto right now. So how are they supposed to integrate that into the Xbox Live system? It's going to be several years. And so we looked at it and went, we'd be stupid not to swing for the fence. You either do an RPG or a multiplayer FPS. Those are the two biggest genres in the industry. You can achieve $1 billion a year revenue with those genres. Normally, that would be suicide, right? I might as well just take the money out in the parking lot and set it on fire rather than actually try to do that. But Web3 has created this opportunity for us and a barrier for them.
Now, I think something you told me before is that with Web3, you can take a much smaller audience that would normally be required in a Web2 game and still create the kind of revenues that you're talking about. Sometimes a tenth or a hundredth of the size of the audience because it's Web3. Is that something you stand by, and why is that?
Yeah, I learned a lesson several years ago, I mean, like over 10 years ago. I worked with this guy to try and acquire Second Life, if you remember that early metaverse. And you might ask, why the hell would you ever do that? The thing is a mess. Even 10 years ago, it was a mess. And at the time, they only had like 110,000 monthly actives, but they were doing 125 million gross a year, 25 million EBITDA. And when I learned that, I was like, how the fuck is that happening, right? Well, when you got into the economy, you realize just taking a microtransaction fee when you take fiat into the game and fiat out, and also whenever players trade, sell, rent with each other, you can produce this insane economy of scale. And the same thing happened with free-to-play. You tend to forget this, right? The average player, the highest monetizing player in what we call premium games is about $200, $250 a year. Xbox monetizes their players better than anybody else. Tencent, which is the biggest game company in the world, they make $10 per player a year. When you bring Web3 in, you're going to see an order of magnitude increase because you're creating an economy that everybody shares in, everybody's trading. Right now, everything's a walled garden, but just imagine a world where I can trade, rent, sell, auction, all of these items from one game into another. It's going to just pour gasoline on the bonfire, that is the game industry already. If you thought the game industry was big, wait till you see what happens after Web3. And I predict this will be the first breakthrough of commercial use of this DeFi and Web3 technologies. Right now, I challenge you to point at more than Coinbase and tell me that a hugely successful, DeFi company that's popular with, the average person. It just doesn't exist. Games are going to be that breakthrough, and the first games that have the kind of production value as we do, or just different and fun to play. And by the way, I need to say that's what it all comes down to. It doesn't matter if it's Web 2 or Web 3. It has to be fun first. If it's not a fun game that I want to play with my friends, it doesn't matter, what it has. That's what our team is focused on. That's where we approach Web 3. Not how can we make more money? What can we do with this technology that is novel for players that they're going to really enjoy?
When did you start working on this game?
Gosh, two and a half years ago. But I've been thinking I bought Shrapnel.com in 1995. And the running joke with anybody that works with me is like, oh, let me guess, it's called Shrapnel, right? So I've been trying to make this thing for that long, but it was really only until blockchain technology appeared, because it's free database technology.
So and 3 years.
Yeah, that long, yeah.
But also that's short to create a AAA game from scratch.
Yeah, but that's true. But remember, we don't have to build a 40-hour single-player experience. We're only building a single multiplayer map. It's a giant map, and it has all kinds of deep integrations, like a marketplace, a Web3 API, all these things that we have to build from scratch right now that you can't go out and license to integrate into the game. But still, it's a lot less work than making the latest version of Call of Duty. And then when we do that, we will release tools for the player. Already, we have a gamer tag tool called Insignia, where you can mint your own gamer tag. That's very popular with players. I want to be, Black Reaper, and I'd love to be Black Reaper in every game, and I'm willing to pay for that. A decal tool that allows you to make what we call insignia, and so you can make really cool decals that you can apply on anything, your weapon, characters, any of that stuff. Make and mint that. Eventually, we will be releasing a character creator tool, so you'll be able to dress your character, and it's unique because you're going to dress them in the same way you and I get dressed. Like character creators currently, you snap a lower body onto upper body and a head, and that combinatorial produces uniqueness, but not the same kind of uniqueness if I could put a head on this body and then put this shirt on, and then that jacket over that, and then this plate carrier, and then these. So I'll be able to produce crazy, unique capabilities. And then finally, the editor, we are modifying the professional version of the Unreal 5 editor for players to be able to make their own maps. And I have seen, when you allow gamers in particular who are just obsessive, right? The ability to crowdsource a design, they're going to make something, I'm not kidding, 1,000,000 times better than we ever are. Because you're going to have hundreds of people trying to improve on a map that we gave them the kind of atomic structure in the pieces so that they could be successful to put it all together. And then eventually, and sorry to go on because this is the thing I'm very excited about, but also generative AI on the horizon. You already seen what you can do with 2D images, where we've already seen the emergence of text to 3D. So you can just enter a prompt and get a gorgeous 3D, what we call static mesh model, like a exploding barrel. And then I can mint it, put it up in the marketplace, and then all of us that are playing it, oh, I love that exploding barrel. I'm going to put it in my map. And the blockchain provides attribution to that creator. So no matter what happens to that barrel going forward, all the map players that use it, we have a player reward system with our token that allows them to share revenue. And the picture I hope you get is everybody suddenly becomes aligned in a really interesting way. The developer, the player is also the developer, also shares in the revenue, also is part of governance, because that's a part of blockchain as well. And so for the first time, you're kind of really collectively working together with the community, which is what the community wants all the time. Game communities are constantly telling developers to fuck off and just do this one thing, and the developers are, they're off in their own world and developing things in secret, and then ta-da, and everybody goes, we hate that. Why would you do that? You had to engage with your community earlier, and giving them the chance to actually vote on the roadmap, like, it's just going to be so powerful. It's very exciting, as you could see.
Yeah, super exciting. Do you have the best game out there right now in Web3?
Of course we do. No, I think I'm very excited to play two other games that I think are on par with us. Off the Grid, which is led creatively by Neil Blomkamp, the science fiction director of Elysium and District 9. That thing looks gorgeous. And Dead Drop, led creatively by Dr. Disrespect, this famous streamer. And each of our three games are radically different, but I'm excited to play their games. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Web3. I've never thought that I was competing with other developers. I said earlier how hard it is to make video games. I could give you all the money. Here's the game design document. Good luck, and chances still are that you wouldn't find an audience with whatever you create. It really takes seasoned teams that really understand what they're doing and bring protocol and process and discipline and rigor to what is some of the most complex software development I think you can do.
Okay.
Because we're always on the cutting edge. I mentioned blockchain and generative AI, like, that's insane to add all these things, but that's what game developers do.
All right, I want to play a trailer so people can kind of see what this game is all about. Do you want to set this up at all, or should we just play it?
I just want to say I produced this with Jerry O'Flaherty, former art director at Epic, and he's just a supremely skilled director. And I wrote it, and it's an insane idea. Let's do this as a single shot. And he said, you're fucking crazy. That would be so cool.
All right, on that note, roll trailer.
Now value. Sigma detected. 1.2 million. Alert. Proximity warning. transferred. Extraction in 60. 59.
All right, so what did we just see there, Mark?
That you basically see the game in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, right? You play one of these operators, a MEF operator, mercenary extraction force. He's in something called the sacrifice zone. And what's happened in the near future, this is like 2038, an asteroid nearly missed the Earth, just barely missed it, hits the moon instead, fractures it, and the resulting ejecta coalesce into rings that extend all the way to Earth now. And so as the Earth rotates into these rings, there's a daily meteor shower, this narrow band on Earth that's hit with it every day. And so all the governments of the world are forced to evacuate this zone, the sacrifice zone. Then it's soon discovered that within the moon rock that's falling as meteors, there's chunks of this asteroid. And it is a extremely rare and valuable mineral. It becomes a conflict mineral because the original contractors that were hired to protect the zone, protect life and property, turn into mercenaries because a single chunk of this sigma, that asteroid, could be worth $1 million. And so the game's actually seeded with these, glowing green crystals, and that's what you're after. But there's other players in the game, and this being an extraction game, I don't win by murdering everybody else in the level and being the last one alive. I win by getting out alive with the most loot. So I might not even engage with you. I might try to avoid you completely. Or I might hang back, and as each extraction is called, and players have to run in to get out on the drone that you saw, I might wait, hang back, pop you, and then take everything you've got, and then go out. And what it produces is kind of a poker effect where we just played around, you took everything from me, now I'm mad, and I want to go back and get what you got. And then there's always one guy who's killing everybody, and we all want to team up against him. And throw on top of that all these NFTs, all the gear that I take away from you has real world value. I think it's very, very powerful. There's a reason people sit in front of a slot machine for 2 hours just pressing a button. It's not because that's fun. It's because there's $20 or $100 in there, and you might win it or lose it at any point. So I think you combine core competitive gaming with real world value in the assets, and you're going to have something completely unique.
Let's talk about that real world value, because you just made a really interesting analogy to a slot machine. The fact that that's fiat money, Yankee dollars, changes the whole experience, because if it was points, people wouldn't sit there for days on end or hours on end playing slot machines. And that maybe has been the missing component in games, where there wasn't real fiat value that I could get from that literally right away. And your token is live now. So technically, I really can turn that into cash. And that changes the way I engage with the game, changes the way I feel about it, changes even the decisions I make as a game player.
Yeah, I think an easy existence proof of this is really esports tournaments, where it's really exciting to see skilled players play for money. They're playing for a prize pool, right? So you can see, oh, this would be amazing, especially if I could do it at a regular player level. But it's a crazy experiment. Like, mixing core competitive, which is already, these are hardcore players that are obsessive, and real world money, that's going to be a very, let's say, volatile mix in the beginning. Addictive, certainly, but I think more these communities, they can turn toxic because these players are so competitive. But again, one of the advantages of Web3 is you're aligning everybody again. For example, if you're a complete dick in Counter-Strike, you can get banned, but then you just come right back in with a new email address. If you get banned in a Web3 game, you are permanently banned. And we can also take away, everything that you got. That is a very extreme end, But if you've got extreme behavior, that solution just doesn't exist in Web 2 gaming currently.
How can you ban someone? Because ID identification is still a little tricky in Web 3, right?
Well, you have to KYC, AML, right?
Okay. All right.
For and by the way, we are not going to create that barrier for players. Our mantra, again, is game has to be fun, has to be a frictionless Web 2 experience. And then as you start winning, you gain skill and start amassing NFTs. We'll send push notifications to you. Hey, you've got $20, $30, $40 worth of stuff. If you'll just KYC, we'll give them to you. We're holding them in a custodial wallet. That's a powerful economic incentive where I don't have to explain anything, any of the benefits to the player. They just, figure it out on their own. And then they can do whatever they want with it. They can exchange it for money. They could take it over to another Web3 game. They can spend it inside this game, create new things. That's why I think opening up Web 2 to Web 3 is just going to really revolutionize gaming. Because suddenly all games are going to be interconnected in this way through marketplaces. I use a metaphor of, coins are kind of going away, caches are going away. But, remember coin machines, and you go into the grocery store and you have a jar of all these coins and you dump them in, it sorts them, takes out the bus tokens and Canadian, coins, and then it gives you $95 for your $100 worth of coins. And you're happy with that transaction, right? Same thing I think will happen with NFTs. A game like ours will just be full, literally everything is almost an NFT in the game, right? So you play for a couple of years, like, I'm done with Shrapnel, I want to play this new exciting game. You'll be able to take this box of NFT Legos and just dump them into what's called an automatic market maker in a marketplace, meaning I don't have to do it eBay style where I put one thing up, one Lego, auction it. I can just dump everything in, and then I get money out or crypto out, and then I go play something else. Why is that good for me as a developer? Because that player is going to come, they're going to turn around, the marketplace is going to turn around and sell for $25, $250 worth of NFTs, like the gold pack or the platinum pack, right? Then they're going to come into my game, and I already know they monetize, right? Because they've spent money on game. The kind of dirty secret of free-to-play is a very small percentage of players actually pay. It's like 2 to 11% on mobile. It's like 10 to 24% on PC and console. But that's still a very small number.
And so you can cash out all your stuff with you and then move to another game. And that's just another way of just locking in all your value and then being able to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because right now I bought all this shit in this other game and it's stuck in this game. Indeed, Ethereum was created in part by its founders because he was an insane World of Warcraft player and he got his character nerfed by the company, and he's really pissed off about it. It was like, I put a lot of time and money into that thing and you just nerfed it. I want to own this. And that was the genesis of Ethereum, that he wanted to digitally own a virtual item.
Right, and now you're finally building a game for him.
Yeah.
Right, you got to get Vitalik in there playing.
Yeah.
How important was it to launch the Shrapnel token, which you did on the 9th of November? It's done very well. I think it peaked about 6x up, and it's kind of been going between 4x and 5x and 6x. So it's had a lot of appreciation. How important was it to launch that token? Why did you need to launch it? And then again, you're in America. What are the issues? Are there regulatory issues? How are you going to use this to make sure this game continues to function going forward?
So first of all, we generated the token generation event, April 29th. So the token's been out there for a long time. And then in the March, May, April timeframe, we began seeding the community with the token. So we give the token away. An important distinction is we airdrop the token on the community. We don't sell the token. The token performance that you described, that's just players speculating on its future value. And that's not something we're concerned with. We believe you need to focus instead on its utility that's how a token's value becomes important to his player. Like, what can it do? And if you think about it, if this revolution happens, then what we've seen in the past, tokens launch, rampant speculation by degens over it is all going to go away. It's instead going to be related to, well, first of all, is that a fun game to play? And then what can you do with it? And what other ecosystems is it bridged to? Because all of that's now more important than anything else.
Okay, but you did list it on an exchange, so some people can buy it if they need to get it to use as a utility.
Yeah, Americans can't buy it because of regulatory restrictions that we hope will change. But in the rest of the world, you can go onto an exchange and buy it, yeah.
Okay, but it was important to have it because it's a crucial building block of this entire Web3 experience.
Yeah, that's where we're focused. It's not really on the value of the token. We're focused on building it into our ecosystem, understanding how it works with the economy. We have to get it into players' hands to understand how they're going to use it. Virtual currencies have been a well-established paradigm since Mario, right, with the gold coins then. There's always been virtual currencies, but they never had real-world value. And so if you think about it, you're actually creating an economy like a government has an economy with deflation, inflation, all of that. And it's a really complex thing. So it has to be released incrementally and then understood as you add each one of these things, as evidenced by like Axie Infinity's 2 tokens and their deflation and how that entire thing collapsed. It's a pretty complex problem that I personally have never worked to develop. So only a few people on our team really understand how to do this.
The tokenomics and all the issues behind what you do with a currency itself.
Yeah, less tokenomics and more the economy itself.
Got it. Let's talk a little bit more about the game and how you promote it, because I've seen things that you're doing that I've not seen done in games, especially Web3 games, and that's this kind of live action aspect where you've got people like in these environments that I guess mimic what's going on inside of Shrapnel in this zone. And you've also put in some of your Twitch influencers into these live action shots.
Yeah.
And I guess it comes with your deep experience of how you can captivate, I guess, potential players' attention. We've even got a clip that shows some of the live action. Let me play this clip, and I want you to come back and explain why you're doing this, because I mean, I was kind of blown away to see it, and it really intrigued me. So let's play this clip, and you can see some of the live action. So when I first saw this, I had to like squint my eyes and I was like, is this CGI? No, these are real people. And then I know some of them were like an influencer. And I even think you did an obligatory cameo, just like Hitchcock used to do on his movies in there. What's going on here? What's the purpose of these assets? Talk to me.
So this is a transmedia marketing plan that we have. Today, you and I are immune to clicking and installing something. That just doesn't happen. Influencers are the tail wagging the dog in the game industry first. We tend to play what my favorite streamer is playing and what my friends are playing. So it was important first that we integrate Myth, Ali Gambari. And he's a terrific guy who's really curious about game development himself. And these guys sometimes secretly get asked by big game developers, hey, would you play this game and give us feedback? And they do that, and then they completely ignore their feedback because it's usually too late. So we brought him in at the earliest stage because a thing we call gun feel, like how does the weapon respond? How fast is it? Muzzle climb, bullet hit reaction. All of that is something you want to really, really fine tune. And here's a guy that spends his life playing video games at a professional level, perfect to get their input. But transmedia is really a fancy word for telling a story over multiple media in an asynchronous way where the normal, maybe Marvel way is the origin story comes out, and then you have the sequel, and then you bring the other characters into this world, right? It's a very well-established performative structure that there's almost nothing left to excite you about. Transmedia instead spreads the story across all these, and there's no what they call platforming. I don't retell a story in a comic in a live action. Instead, I tell a completely different piece. And you often also deliberately create gaps in the fiction where the comic reader, the video watcher, the gamer goes, they didn't really explain that. And It's kind of important.
Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, so that makes me curious about it. So what you just saw was some behind the scenes live action, green screen and hybrid, meaning we used a virtual volume. In the green screen, by the way, it wasn't straight up normal green screen. We're doing something called Through View with the production company Stargate, where if you looked in the camera viewfinder, you'd see that the graphics were being merged in real time in the film. So we're using the actual game graphics for the special effects in a live action piece. And all those characters are defined in a 120-page transmedia Bible where we describe this whole world, all the characters that are behind it. And these live action videos are going to be 4 that are 10 to 15 minutes long each that tell kind of a Rashomon perspective story of operators operating in the sacrifice zone. So even that told out of order and from different perspectives, I think is going to be interesting. But this is how, modern pop culture consumers are. Like, we are incredibly sophisticated at this point, right? And so if I discover a franchise I love, we become like information hunter-gatherers. Like, I go off now, like before Napoleon comes out, like, oh, well, now I want to Waterloo. That's right. That's what happened. I go off and learn or Oppenheimer, maybe a better example, like this kind of almost obscure character who we knew was the father of the atomic bomb, but I don't really know anything more about that. But we all went off and, wikied and learned more. And did you know that, and the hydrogen bomb and all that. So if now we're going to create a modern franchise, you have to provide for all of this. And if you don't think about it ahead of time, this has happened to me. You have a successful title and you find you painted yourself into a corner. It's like, oh, fuck, we killed that guy off and we actually need him, so now I guess we're going to have to go back in time to a point that's less interesting. So if you take the time ahead of time and you plan all this out in a transmedia Bible, which I did with Mike Suarez, one of the founders of Rockstar. Mike and I worked on this for several months. And then you can hand it off to a writer of a comic or live action video and say, do whatever you want with these characters, just be consistent with them. And we didn't tell plot arcs, we only told character stories. That way you could take 2 characters and go, oh, this is a revenge story, or this is lone wolf and cub. This warrior has to protect this child to get them from A to B, which as a creator is so much more interesting than being told, well, you got to write the sequel and here's everything that I need you to do. And it just doesn't produce as interesting a media. So I know it looks insanely ambitious from the outside, but we're being very clever by reusing game graphics. And the leader of the team in LA for Epic that makes the Unreal Engine came on set one day and he was like, holy shit, dude, you're the first guys to do this. Do you know that? And I was like, wow, actually I didn't know that. And it's super cool to know because we're pretty psyched about what we're doing. And wait till you see the composited shots. When you see them on green screen, it's like you can't really tell what's going on. Unreal 5 is just, the lighting model is so beautiful now. It looks absolutely like they're in that environment.
Wow, and you were the first person to do that.
We should be the first to have done that, yeah. This will be coming out early next year. We're cutting the series right now.
Okay. Yeah, you're describing exactly how I felt because I was left asking questions like, what is that? And who are they doing? And that character doesn't look like a character I saw before. And there wasn't this maybe ultra congruency that we get with these Hollywood franchises.
Right,
where, like, they
right.
tell you the story and they retell you the story, and it almost treats your audience like dummies to a certain extent.
Right.
Because you're worried about filling all the gaps and trying to appeal to 90% of the audience. But instead, what you're doing is sparking curiosity.
I'm so with you. When I find a show that where I'm watching with my spine, I say, where you have to really kind of pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm so much more satisfied because we're such sophisticated visual consumers. And I didn't really mention any of the comics. We produced over 12 individual comics as well that explore all these characters' worlds.
In Shrapnel.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a cool thing about a comic I learned early on, I've written a couple of graphic novels, is, as a producer, when someone says, well, we could go on the moon and we could do this, like, oh man, that's really expensive and not sure about that. And I was working with the comic editor. He said, Mark, you could blow up a planet, and it costs the same as to draw a guy, sleeping in his bed, right? So comics have this incredible expansive potential. You can go do things like I said, blow up a planet where, you just couldn't do that in a video game or the live action series. But as we expand this world and you become a friend, a community member, a friend of the franchise, you'll be able to go back and discover all of this.
How do I get my hands on the comic book if I'm a player?
Oh, you could just go straight to our website.
And buy it there?
No,
or
it's
watch
free.
It? Just watch. Okay, go and
Yeah,
consume
we've
it.
actually got a comic reader so you can read the
So how many different media verticals, or is that what you call them, make up this game? Like there's a comic book. Obviously I can play the game. I can watch these live action videos. Like what else is coming? Is the musical coming soon?
We're planning for success. So that's somebody else's, decision. If we're successful enough that it deserves a live action series or feature film, we've thought about characters that could be used in that category, but that's up to somebody else. And I know sometimes it sounds like overly ambitious. I'm guilty of being a creative overachiever, I think. But it really is exciting to work in multiple media. It's such a expanding experience. Like learning about comics, for example, comics are a very short form of storytelling that's visual as well, right? So when you write the manuscript, you have to say, page 4 panels, panel 1, medium shot, Mark's in the foreground, he's mad, Brian's in the background, he looks sad. You have to describe all these things. And as a creator, it was a big lesson in, I have to actually go off and learn cinematography to be a comic creator, because you're framing things in a cinematic way. And I can tell you, if you don't learn cinematography, the comic will come out and you'll look at it and go, I don't know, it wasn't that interesting. You won't say, it's because...
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.